Welcome, Tulay. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Welcome, Parul. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I am so excited about our conversation today because the topic that we have chosen is relevant to every single human being on this planet.
Isn't it
because,
just?
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is mastering the principles of serenity for life. Who wouldn't benefit from this topic? So, Tulay, we are going to talk about how to master the principles of serenity for life, but why don't we start with understanding who Tulay is? So tell us, what is your story?
Oh, thank you, Parul, for giving me this opportunity, first of all. So my name is Dr. Tulay Massey, and I'm the founder of Tulay Massey Coaching and the creator of the Serenity Method. And we will talk about that. But before that, like you say, I am originally from Turkey, and believe it or not, I've trained as a food scientist. I have a PhD in food science and technology, and I worked in the corporate food FMCG world for over 18 years. Doing obviously product development, product innovation, leading technical stuff, plus coaching people all over the world on several aspects of food science and personal development. So, but just to go into the story, given that we are in a story group, I started my corporate life in 2001, having just finished my PhD, and my dream was to work in the best food company, making the dream cheese and whatever. And all I really wanted to do is to touch people's hearts with the products that I made. And when they consumed the things that I made, they would feel the excitement and the passion that I put into it. And that's been there for a number of years. I developed beverages to help people's life, make people's life easier and things like that. But there's come a time in my life that I've done that for so long, and there was something that inside of me that wanted to make impact, reach more people, and help touch more lives, if you like. And as I went into the coaching world in about 2005, I really discovered there's so much more that I can give to this world. And there's like always something inside of me that I wanted to just give more and be more. And having achieved all my life goals, like having my kids and getting to the top of the stage, as it were, in my own profession, I wanted to do something different. And this really hit me when was in about early 2017, when I was literally hit by flu for 7 weeks. I was just not in a good place. And on return, I started to question, what is it that I am doing in this world? What is my real purpose? And, what am I really doing with myself? And is this enough, kind of thing? And that's when I realized that actually there was more to me than just being a food scientist. I'm saying just, but obviously it isn't just, but at that point, that's how it felt. So I started seeking for, what is it that lights me up? What do I feel like doing? And even if nobody paid me, kind of thing, the general questions, as you know. And it just kind of hit me like a brick, ton of bricks, that I actually was born to do coaching. I've done it so many times before in my world, and kind of dabbling at this here and there, and wanted to do it, but just pulled back. And eventually I opened one of my MBTI profiles, and it said, basically, you're born to be a coach. I was like, wow, of course I am. So it's then when I decided to train as a life coach. And since then, about 4 or 5 years ago, I've invested in myself, in training with the top transformational coaches in the world, practicing my coaching on anyone that I can possibly find, and finally finding clients and helping change their lives as well. So that's kind of, in short, my story.
Wow, wow, what a beautiful journey. I have never met a food scientist before, and I had absolutely no idea that you were one.
Okay.
Because I've always interacted with you as a coach, as a fellow coach. That's how I knew you. So, oh, amazing
That's good.
foods. Yeah, that's so cool.
It is cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I heard was that this desire to become a coach and step away from the job that you were doing had been growing inside you for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually you took that leap when you were poorly, and you said you wanted more from life.
Yes, I mean, I took the leap to at least start to train as a coach whilst I was still doing my job. And I was still had the fear of, oh my God, how am I going to let go of this? I've got 18 years of experience. I'm the only breadwinner and this and that. I can't just get rid of all the 21 years of studying plus 18 years of all this stuff. So many, as you know, fear and uncertainty, everything that's just in my head, bubbling about. So, but I decided to let go of any of that future pacing that we do and just focus on that moment. Who can I help today? How can I be the example that I want to set in the world? Because one of the things that I always wanted to do is that inspire people through the actions that I take and through the being that I am. And so I decided to be who I want to be and, help people in that way. And so just simple examples. I hated being in meetings. I hated being in meetings with no purpose.
Yeah.
And I hated being in meetings in a kind of disempowered place, just putting other people on pedestals and thinking that I'm not good enough and all of this sort of stuff. So I've let go all of that. Started to see everybody on a level playing field, if you like, and be aware of my own reactions, actions, almost become the observer of my own thoughts and reactions to things. And I started to teach to other people. In my first year of that training, during that training, I would grab anyone who had 30 minutes to just have a chat or whatever and practice all my skills on that. And it was great practice, because then the thing is, what you don't realize is that when you're in the corporate world with people day in, day out, you actually grow so many skills of this, dealing with people, interactions and coaching, all of that already. And I already was trained facilitator doing diversity and inclusion trainings year in, year out. And I love that. And what really, I would come alive, as it were, when I go on the stage talking to people and seeing their transformations and things like that. So that really was the nail in the coffin, as it were, when I decided this is what I'm going to do. And it just gives me so much energy. You probably see me still light up talking about it.
Yeah, I can feel it. I can see it on your face, how passionate you are about what you do.
Yeah,
I can totally feel it here.
Yeah. So having obviously doing all of these things and showing people how it is, I started to then actually see some transformations with one of the colleagues that I coached over almost a year, and literally applying every principles that I'm going to talk about and teaching her. And she took it like a water to duck, whatever the expression is. She is literally applied everything that I taught her, and you would see her life is transformed beyond recognition, absolutely beyond recognition. And that was so good. That was so good. So, and that's when I decided, well, it's going to be okay. So I started to actually apply some of the things that I teach into my own life, started to actually visualize what I want from life. Where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? To become the person that I want to be, become the coach and become the full-time coach that I want to be. And that's when I created this method of Serenity Method. And it's because when I started applying to my own life and to others, transformation is magical. You wouldn't believe it until it happens to you. And this is when I decided I need to make this something that is actually, that could be, scaled, applied to other people. And that's how I eventually manifested being able to leave my work without having to worry about what's going to happen next. So do you mind if we just go on and start talking about what are these principles that
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we do that, I'm really keen to understand how did you zero in on serenity? Because you were already coaching, but how did you arrive at serenity?
So it's a great question. It's kind of obviously something that you ponder on. There's so many coaches out there. People teach stuff I could be a standard life coach. There's nothing wrong with being that. But of course, I had to kind of find a way to differentiate and actually give people something that's tangible. And serenity is something that I could come to as tangible as possible. And let me explain what serenity really means. It means being calm, peaceful, happy, and joyful at all times, regardless of what your circumstances are. We associate our happiness with external circumstances, like, oh, when it's sunny, I'm going to be happy. When I buy the car, I'm going to be happy. When I get my next promotion, I will be happy. When we move to our forever home, we will be happy. Imagine what a broken system this is, because when that next thing that you're expecting to give you the happiness goes away, the effects disappear, what happens? You become unhappy again. So the serenity is actually being happy from the inside out, no matter what your circumstances are, no matter what's going on the outside, whether it be pandemic, whether it's you might lose your job, you lose whatever. So it's an unconditional internal happiness.
Oh, I love that. Unconditional internal happiness. Wow. Tell us more. How can we get some of that?
Well, how can we get some of that? Like I said, we often associate our happiness with lots of different conditions. And most people come to me with a question, I don't know what I want in life, or perhaps it's because it's impossible. Well, you could already read what they believe. What they believe is that what they want is impossible. Therefore, they even give up before even start thinking about what is it that they want. And we do this. I still do this occasionally, but now I've the mastery of catching myself, or what is it that I am believing about this specific thing, then I'm gonna turn it around, because what you believe about a certain thing will determine what's possible for you on any given subject. So what you believe about your happiness, if your happiness depends on conditions, then you will only create those conditions to be happy. And when those conditions are no longer there, you automatically become unhappy. So going back to the 3 principles that I teach to people. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so as I said, mastering the Serenity Principles to transform your life, like I said, is the fastest and most effective way to get into alignment and become the heart-centered creator. Heart-centered creator is basically is a kind of person who create their own life. You know what? We are always creating currently as we speak. We create our own reality, as you already know. And we either create it unconsciously and by default, by just giving into the circumstances that we have, or we can create it consciously by knowing what is it that we want to create and focusing on that, because what we focus on grows and our energy flows towards that. So there are 3 principles that I teach in the Serenity Method, which is finding your why. And, this is obvious. Simon Sinek teaches that. Find your why and you'll get there. It's great, fantastic. And the second principle is who is it that you want to be? People say, oh, who you are, it's great, be who you want to be and all this sort of stuff. But what does that really mean? Who you want to be is the kind of person who creates the life that you want to create for yourself, for your future. But it is easier. It's harder than you think how we achieve that. And I'll dismantle that in a second. And the third one is that what is it that you need to do to achieve all of that? These are the principles, but most people have it backwards. How so, you might ask?
Yeah.
And they actually miss most important parts, because we start with, oh, what do I need to do now? Let's do this. This is a to-do list of 20 things that you need to do. You only achieve 5. By the time you get to number 6, you already lost the will to live and you give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been
Can
there,
you
done
repeat
it,
that?
got the t-shirt.
Sorry?
Been there, done it, got the t-shirt.
Exactly. And we do that all the time. You wanna lose weight, you go to the gym 3 times a week. By the 3rd week, oh, I'm bored of this. I can't do this. Why? Because you're not being the kind of person who does those things.
Yeah.
So we start with what and we forget how. So who is the kind of person who will be able to lose that amount of weight? Is that person is that a person that comes up with excuses while he's training? I can't go to the gym. Gyms are closed, therefore I can no longer exercise. This is like the simplest example I can give to you. And then we even forget why we are doing it in the first place. You've decided to lose weight at the beginning of year, or give up alcohol, or go to the gym because your friend Karen said, oh, let's do this together. This was Karen's vision, not yours. Karen decided that for whatever reason, but you probably weren't even aligned and you didn't even know why you were doing it. So all these externally motivated things will not keep you going because you're not in your heart aligned with any of them. Does that make sense to you?
It makes so much sense, Tulay. It makes so much sense. And you're right. Most of us have got this sequence backwards. We start with what. In the process, we start wondering about who. And so many times we don't even get to why.
You don't even get to the why. You might not even get to the who, because every time I still see this. What do you need to do this? Well, who do I need to become to do this? And when I say who do you need to become, it doesn't mean that you have to become a different person. What it does mean, however, is that you need to strip away all the layers of conditioning, the limitations, the pressures that you put on yourself. The kind of people I work with generally is that have the limitations that I must achieve the next promotion in order to be able to get this. I must meet these expectations. I'm an perfectionist. This is the identity level. I'm a perfectionist, therefore I must comply to this. If you give yourself these sort of labels, which are obviously put onto you by the society, by your teachers, by your parents, by whoever else that you have been influenced by, all you're going to do is subconsciously continue to comply with that without even knowing that you are doing that.
Yeah.
So the work is not necessarily becoming a different person, but actually stripping away those layers and finding the core being that you are, who is capable of more than you can possibly imagine. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Beautiful.
So, I mean, if I just go a little bit into the details, when you don't have a why, what really happens is that you don't know what your values are and what really drives you. You seek for your purpose outside of yourself. As I was saying, your friend Karen does that, and therefore I must go and do this now. And then you just go from one side to the other. You're too busy conforming to the society to prove that you're good enough that you forget why is it that you're here in the first place. And you continue to operate from what fits the mold, fits the society, rather than what's important to you, because you haven't decided what your values are, right?
Yeah.
And you get disorientated and overwhelmed when you don't get validated, appreciated by others, because all this next promotion, the next thing, the next achievement will only last for a long time. It only validate you for a certain amount of time, and when that goes away, you seek for the next one. It becomes a vicious cycle that you cannot, get out of until you determine what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And as I'm sat listening to you, Tulay, I'm thinking that there are two aspects, there are two dimensions to feeling unhappy, or eventually feeling unhappy, when we associate our happiness with these goals. And one is what you mentioned, what happens when those identities are stripped away through change of circumstances or loss. That's one aspect of it. And the second dimension that I see is when we get to that goal from A, when we get to B, we want to get to C. And when we are at C, we want to get to D. And that's a beautiful thing because that's how we grow and evolve. But if we tie our happiness to A, B, C, D, E, then we don't pause and appreciate because we are constantly moving.
Yes. Yeah, because you mentioned, I heard you say being happy versus feeling happy. There's a very subtle distinction.
Okay.
Being happy is the thing that we are talking about.
Yeah.
We want to be happy rather than feel happy. Feel happy. Feelings are associated with thoughts and conditions and circumstances. See? And if you are associating your happiness, as we said from the beginning, according to what's going on, you're going to continue to seek to feel happy. But if you are happy, if you are being happy as you are and grounded with, you know, your purpose and everything else, then that's what being happy is. And that's not what depends on circumstances. And that's the state that we want to be in, no matter what's going on outside. A pandemic can be happening. You know, the world may be falling apart and the weather may be bad and your neighbor might think that you're an asshole, whatever. But, you know, it doesn't matter what's going on the outside. You can still be happy internally. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. Yes, yes. When we are happy within ourselves, then everything else that's going outside us and the impact that those things are having on us, none of it matters really, because that happiness becomes so innate to us.
Yes. Yes, because you don't associate your own well-being and your worthiness with other people's reactions, with other people's opinions, with other people's, you know, circumstances and things like that that's going on outside of you. You know, people might react to you in certain way. I find in the entrepreneur world, and you put something on social media, somebody reacts in a certain way, and then, oh my God, your world is falling apart because they thought that you were a bad person. They thought that, you know, all of that is nonsense, because, you know, that person reacts to that post based on their interpretation of what you said, and it has nothing to do with you. So that if you have the inner happiness and the inner knowing and inner groundedness, that doesn't make any difference to you. You are still happy because you know from what energy you took the action. And that's all that matters. And I'm talking from experience. I recently had somebody send me a DM on LinkedIn to say, oh, you know, the way you're sharing this and it's not great and whatever. It's like, fine, I'm sorry that you interpret it in that way, but I don't share anything that I have not experienced. So, you know, feel free to unfollow if you want to, but that's what I'm gonna share what I'm gonna share, because that's how I feel aligned to share that.
Yeah.
And she only came back to apologize because she could see the genuinity in the thing. So this determines how we respond to the outside world, not just react and get changing feelings and thoughts and whatever, because nothing that's going on the outside is actually about us. We think the world is revolving around us. It doesn't, funnily enough.
No, it doesn't. Going back to the example that you just shared, Tulay, that's so powerful because that's the day-to-day reality of all his business owners, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There's going to be somebody who wouldn't like what we say, how we say it. And had you been a person who thrives on that external validation, you might have taken it to your heart.
Absolutely.
But you were just not perturbed because you were so grounded within yourself, and you know, and you don't associate your self-worth with external validation.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot there was okay. Yeah, if you're looking for the external validation, what happens is that it's great that when people validate you, it creates those wonderful feelings, but they will pass. Feelings are temporary, but being the person that you want to be is going to be with you all the time, because you take yourself everywhere you go. And, you know, just as you can feel so happy and elated by people's validation, you can also feel down on the floor when people don't validate you and people go against what you think. And that's the beauty of having that groundedness and finding the happiness from within, Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what makes, I think hopefully will concretize in people's heads about knowing your why. And when you know your why and your values in your core being, where do you operate from? It doesn't matter what people interpret, because everybody interprets things from their own perspective, from their own belief systems, and from their own filters, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next thing is that, oh yeah, these are just some testimonials I had, but when you don't change your subconscious programming, as in who you want to be, the conditioning that we had, what then happens is that you try and change relying on your self-help books, the external trainings, and all these, changing your behaviors, but you fail. Why? Because changing your behavior for a short time is never going to stick. As we just gave the example from the beginning, you're not being the person who needs to change the behaviors because you're not understanding. You don't have the right beliefs about yourself that is going to make that change permanent. You constantly self-sabotage. Here's a very good example to this, is that why we don't stick to going to or somebody might actually stick to going to the gym 3 times a week or whatever they committed to. But if you continuously tell yourself, oh, I'm never cut out for this, I'm never going to be an athlete, no matter what I do, I can't lose that last 10 pounds, or whatever it is, the self-talk that you have for yourself, your subconscious is only going to listen to that. And that's what you're going to create in your reality. So it doesn't matter how much effort you put into it. It doesn't matter how much consistency and commitment you have. If your subconscious mind is not aligned with your behaviors, then you're only wasting your time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do we start changing our subconscious programming?
Well, it's basically being mindful of the words that you say to yourself. But we are going to come to that in a second, because you started with, first of all, knowing your why. Yeah. You start with your why in the first place. What is it? Why am I doing this? What is my higher purpose? Why, we all, I believe that we all have a higher purpose than that we originally bought into, or whatever. That's why people, like, they want to find their purpose. This is what I was seeking for constantly and was not satisfied with it when I was in my corporate job. And once I found the why, because I want to make more impact, this is what my purpose is, everything else, now who do I need to be to create that reality, is that then step into the identity and strip away all the things. And all conditioning is specifically what I teach in my program, is to give you an audio to practice. Athletes do it as visualizations, and you can do it as daydreaming, call it whatever you like. This is how you start to recondition your subconscious mind, and it is possible. And this is why, like I said, all athletes achieve their top ranks and whatever, because they believed and they visualized it all the time. So the never-ending frustrating vicious circle continues if you don't know who you want to be, if you don't define who you're going to be and recondition yourself. So the third pillar, as I was saying, is that which is all of us start with habits. Oh, let's get this habits changed. I'll drink 3 glasses of water a day, 3 liters of water a day, and it's great. But really, if you don't have the identity, they will fall off, because the life will get in the way. It's a great example. At the beginning of January, Boris said, oh, we're going to go, schools will close. The first thing I saw on Facebook, oh, dry January is now out of the window. Well, if you were both into that idea of having a dry January, or even if you're the kind of person who didn't binge on that alcohol all December long, you wouldn't even be there. Do you see what I mean? So you wouldn't even have to change anything. So, and any external circumstances wouldn't necessarily stop you making that change. Yeah. Of course, we all felt devastated when the schools were closed. we were desperately ready to go back, right? But but that didn't necessarily mean for me, oh no, my business is now out of the window, I'm not going to help anyone anymore because the schools are closed.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So it's just that kind of external circumstances that everything changes based on what's going on.
Yeah.
And we can't live the life like that. So when you don't know what the habits need to be, you realize why you need to change, and you need to who you need to become, but we don't know what to change. What are the habits that I need to actually start to adopt? And you don't know, and you don't even know how to change them, because people say the habits are very difficult to change, and they might be. It is true, but then it is difficult to change, like I said, because people try and change their habits without tackling the identity element, and they try and change it from a 3D analytical brain, and habits are not dictated by our analytical brain. So we continue to operate from the comfort zone. The fear, the anxiety, overwhelm all comes in because we can't change them. So, and we start to do things as we've always done, longer, faster, harder, more effort, but get frustrated when we can't change the habits.
Yeah.
And the vicious cycle continues. So, and this is kind of, these are my things. So most people stay stuck in where we are because they have no vision, they have no clarity of where they are going. They work from their limitations rather than their possibilities, and that's normal because that's what we're conditioned to do. Oh, you can't do this because you're too young. You can't do this because you're too old. You're too qualified. Whatever you name it, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what our values are. We go to everything. If you're working in a corporate world, every meeting you go to, you get to go. You have to go. You feel you have to go, even though you may not have anything to say or any contribution. You just go. When you know your values, what's right for you, what's within, then you can actually take your actions based on that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have the lack of understanding of commitment and self-responsibility. We commit to the wrong things, and we become the victims of our circumstances rather than taking responsibility for what's going on. Let's take the gym example again. When the gyms close, oh, I can't exercise. Well, if you actually committed to moving your body 3 times a day as opposed to going to the gym 3 times a day, no matter what has changed with the gyms, you can still move your body. You can go up and down the stairs, you can walk in your garden, you can go to the local park. Do you see the difference? Just a very subtle. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
And we have people, when we say habits, people talk about, going to the gym, drinking water, drinking alcohol, whatever it might be, brushing your teeth, but there are subconscious habits like self-sabotage or our self-talk that we are completely oblivious to. And it's those sort of habits that we need to change in order to be able to achieve what we want in life and actually be the kind of person who achieves the kind of things that we aspire to achieving. So these are so unconscious, and this is why we need to be so on our guard, if you like, to change. And then incongruent unconscious identity, as we talked about, is what it is. Basically, you say to yourself, I'm not cut out to do this, and you can do all the actions, you can take all the actions, but all the other people will see, I'm not cut out to do this, therefore she's not confident enough, forget it.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
do you have any questions?
Yes. I would love to gain some more clarity on self-sabotage because I want to understand, how does somebody who wants to succeed in a particular task or in a particular thing, how do they end up self-sabotaging themselves?
Like I said, it's so incredibly unconscious. We do this like automatically. And it could be as simple as I'm shy. And I'm shy in your head is followed by therefore I can't speak. And if I can't speak, then I can't express myself. If I don't express myself, then they're not going to be able to hear me out. And then they just kind of, this becomes their reality. Another example of self-sabotage, well, I'm too fat, therefore I'm not going to be able to wear that dress, and I continue to. And then if you're too fat in your own mind, this is how you see yourself, you continue to then eat bad food, because I'm not worthy of feeling or looking good or whatever it might be. And this constantly happens. I'm not good enough, or I'm not good enough for the next promotion, therefore I won't even bother applying.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? This just comes in. So I mean, first thing you look in the mirror, oh my god, my hair looks horrendous. Go talk to your best friend for about 5 minutes in the same way you speak to yourself, perhaps. And then see how long you stay friends with. Oh my god, Sarah, you look like shit this morning. How can you? You see what I mean? It's just like, how could you do that? That was a horrendous thing to say in the presentation. I was just, making up examples, but you know what I mean, right? We say these things to ourselves. We don't even realize how bad some of those things are, because we don't hear ourselves.
Yeah, so true, so true.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, basically Serenity Method brings up all the three elements that we talked about. You start with your why. What is your core purpose in life? What is it that you are here in the first place? And what are those values that you operate from currently? And then you decide, who do you want to be? Who's the kind of, who would I be? What would I do? And how would I feel if I already had what I wanted? And one of the takeaways we said is that you work from point B, from where you want to be, because often we are so focused on what is currently in our reality.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I've created so far. Great. I'm on point A. I want to go to point B. I can't go to point B because I'm too focused on point A. Oh my God, I can't achieve this. I can't. What is this? Why are you focusing on being on point A? And what one of my coaches said, what got you there is not gonna, what got you here is not gonna get you there. What got you here, your current reality is created by your habits, that has been the person you have been so far, and the actions you've taken so far. And if you want to create a different reality, you need to change some things. You need to change different actions. And people wonder why they can't find their purpose, because what they keep telling themselves, that I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know. Your mind focused on, I don't know what my purpose is. So but that comes from the belief that because I haven't found it so far, I'm too old to find it, therefore I'm not going to find it, therefore I'm not even going to think about it, therefore I must have no purpose other than what I'm doing right now. Do you see how the self-sabotage, how the self-talk and old conditioning comes into place?
Yep.
So it's the work here, what we do is the digging deeper into what causes you to believe a certain belief that you're holding right now, and how is that belief stopping you being in point B, operating from point B already. And let's give an example of like the entrepreneur world. Oh, I don't have the money to spend on Facebook ads. But if you don't have the leads, if you don't have the leads that you can turn into customers, how are you going to ever scale your business?
Yeah.
Right? So I don't have the money. I don't have the money is where you're operating, you're on point B, but you want to point A and you want to be on point B, is that you need to find the money. When you find the money, all of a sudden the universe opens up so many opportunities to you.
Yep. Yeah.
So let's see what else. And then, so I have a coaching program called Mastering the Serenity Principles, using the Serenity Method for life. And it brings out all the three aspects of mind, body, and soul, as we've talked about. And actually, it embodies this universal principles of be, do, have. Most people start from, like I said, what do I need to have? First of all, I need to have, so they start with, I want to have a car, I want to have the business, I want to have the people, and whatever, but they forget who is it they need to be to have all of those things in the first place. What are my behaviors? What sort of kind of behaviors that I need to be committed to in order to do that. And if you are a kind of person who wants to scale their business, want to build connections with people that they serve, but they can't be bothered to get on a video, and just because they are too worried about what other people are going to think, how do you think that's going to happen?
It's going to be a lot harder.
Yes, if not impossible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the kind of the principles, and you can master the Serenity Principles with the Serenity Method, because, like I said, it brings the why, the who, and what all together, because you create a vision aligned with your deeper purpose.
Yeah.
Based on that, and you become the person who you need to be now, as opposed to in 3 years' time, because until you become that person, nothing will change. And you can determine and commit to the daily habits that supports the new you, which is your what, basically. And it's transformative because it's real and it brings a lasting change. Unlike other coaching programs you might have seen, it just doesn't get you to create a vision board, which you might never look at it again. But it doesn't just introduce a few habits and you will never stick to, and it doesn't make you write down the goals that you're not aligned with, because you're not going to achieve the goals that you write down if you continue to self-sabotage. It focuses on the application, not just giving you the blind knowledge of all of these things, because we've read all of this in the personal development books, right?
Yeah.
But they get forgotten when life gets in the way. Whereas with this, you apply every single thing that I teach you. And it focuses on your purpose, your identity, which drives all your behaviors. And it tackles your habits that is aligned with your vision and your purpose and values, and cements it all together. And it gives you the context in which you live your life, not just the content. Like I said, all these personal development books and perhaps some of the trainings, it gives you all the content. Great. Now what? What am I going to do with it? Yeah. So that's kind of how we essentially come to this. And that's how we master the Serenity Principles. And as I was saying, the 3 things that we wanted to take away: you can't outgrow your identity until you change it. And it's not about changing who you are deep inside. It's about stripping away the limitations that stops you being who you actually are. And like I said, you can't get to point B whilst you're focused on point A and worried about what you can't have, because all you're really focusing on what you don't have, or what you've just created, and what you've created has been a result of all your thoughts and beliefs and limitations so far. And until you start seeing the possibilities, then you're not going to get to point B. And then, like I said, you can't change your life by just changing your behaviors, because the behaviors are just things that you buy into with your analytical brain, and your habits and your identity come from the deeper subconscious brain. So it's just kind of, don't even bother trying to change your behaviors without understanding who you need to be and actually adopting those behaviors right now. And so this is how you then consciously become the creator, and you no longer need to worry about what might or might not happen, what's the uncertainty. Like I said, people mostly worry about even thinking about what they want in life, because they hold the belief that what they want is impossible. And with this, we make it possible to think about what is it that you want, because you have no limitation. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions?
It does. What I'm thinking is, if we can get to the root of the story that is that we are carrying, and if we can either tweak it or drop it if it's not serving us, and create a new story, it's going to help us move forward.
Yes, that's a good summary, because the story, as you said, is that we're so good at creating stories, and some of the stories are not actually true. They are based on the beliefs that we adopted when we were 5, for example. And the belief is we continue to think, is a thought that we continue to think, and when it becomes a belief, we don't even think about it. We just take it as is. And that becomes our story, which then becomes our identity. But then you can change your stories. You know, if I stuck to my story, I'm a food scientist and I just want to help people to do whatever, and hadn't changed that story, then I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yeah.
So we have the power to change the story and write a new one. You know, most of us operate from the beliefs that we adopted when we were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. And do you allow your 5-year-old to decide make your life decisions? I'm thinking not. So perhaps give it another consideration when it comes to that. What am I believing right now about this specific situation? What is the belief I'm holding? And is that really serving me? And what other beliefs I can actually adopt? It's a simple exercise, but of course, not it's simple when you're aware, but it isn't that easy to do. Otherwise, people would be doing it by themselves, right?
Yeah, it's hard because, as you said, our stories become our identities. Yeah, and a lot of those stories are not even our own. We have just acquired them from the world around us.
Well, absolutely. We've acquired them. We bought into them and we don't even think about them. We don't even realize some of these things are our stories anymore, you know, and we keep telling these stories, and it's just sometimes we even create stories to defend our limitations.
Oh, yes, we do. We are so clever, aren't we?
We are. Excuses, whatever. So it's just kind of all around stories. But I think knowing that we can change that story, having the awareness that changing that story is a good empowered place to be. So essentially that's what I do. That's the Serenity Principles, and be living in the serenity from within despite your circumstances is all about. And this is when you master this, what we do in my program is that we focus on one area of your life. And once you master and apply these principles to that specific area, you can then keep applying to every area of your life. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Oh, this makes so much sense, Tulay. Tell us, how can people work with you? How can they experience this goodness for themselves?
Thank you. I mean, I have an 8-week coaching program called, like I said, Serenity Principles for Life Transformational Coaching Program. It is open. Currently, I have spots available as early as next week if people want to reach out. If they want to book a call with me to find out more and so forth, they can do so. I also have a next level program, but people have to go through the foundational stages as we've spoken about first. Then they can go to the next level. But the easiest way to work with me is I can put some links in the under this video. Is to reach out to me to book a call, and then we can go from there.
And you are on Facebook, you are also on LinkedIn, is that right?
Yes, Facebook and LinkedIn, and even on Instagram, even though I'm not very active on Instagram. I also have a Facebook page and a website, so I can put all those links for those to
just drop all the links under this video so that we have everything in one place.
Sure.
Wonderful.
And I'll put a link to directly to the coaching program itself if you want to enroll. It's there because it gives a lot more details than we've obviously talked about here. So
that'll be wonderful. Tulay, before we let you go, if you had to share one big message with our audience, what would it be?
The one big message, well, all it is that you can't outgrow your old identity, basically. And no matter how much effort you put, no matter how many courses you attend, no matter how many magic pills people offer you, no matter what, goes on outside, until you make that change, until you believe that goodness within you, nothing will change in your own world. And this applies to anybody, especially the entrepreneurs. People get all caught up on what is the method, how could I launch, do I do a challenge, do I do a webinar, none of that matters. None of that really matters, as long as you have a way to put your offers out there. But the important thing is how you show up. And like I said, all those beliefs that you hold about yourself and all these back chats about, oh, I'm not good enough, or what will they think of me, and what will I do about it, and whatever, will all show. It's like in this magic mirror, people will see all of that. And until you deal with all of that, with that transformation from the inside out, nothing will change externally. You know, my coach always says, until nothing will change on the outside until you change on the inside.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my golden nugget for the day.
What a powerful message to finish this wonderful conversation with. Tulay, thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me, and I really enjoyed sharing my story with you and your audience. Thank you, Parul.
Thank you, Tulay.